You know what? The FOMO, there's always going to be FOMO in life. I found that out. And
Yeah.
at some point you start to make peace with it and you just say, you know what? There's going to be a million things I miss on, but as long as I catch a couple thousand, I'm going to have lots of millions in the bank and I'm good with that, you know?
Okay. Bitcoin has pulled back beautifully, as predicted, hitting $45,824. Cue the deleting of comments that said I would be wrong from bikers who can't control their emotions. Again, members and I just keep printing dollars.
I really want people to start to understand that emotion gets you in trouble. Like, yes, I believe in Bitcoin long-term, but it doesn't mean it's going to go up every single day from here until eternity. You're going to have pullbacks. You're going to have levels that hit. And that's exactly what we have. If we look at the Bitcoin chart here, it was a beautiful move up into this perfect parallel channel trend line. And the 200 moving average was right there. The Bitcoin was up 7 straight days into that too. So, I mean, it was kind of begging to be a pullback. And so all we did was we sold our long on Bitcoin and then we just ended up shorting it there and now in the money. So again, you know, I think there's still a little bit more downside here. First big level to test is going to be right here, just below 45,000. We're getting pretty close. And then that will be the first big test, whether or not Bitcoin can turn around and try to break out, or if it's going to fail and start heading back to the lower side of the channel. Channels that are upsloping like this, generally the probabilities are that they break to the downside. And what's interesting about this, if you go back to last year, let's go back to last May and June, you actually had another kind of channel, but this one was downsloping. So if we look at this here and we draw a parallel line, you could see how you were in this parallel. Downsloping parallel channels tend to break up, while upsloping tend to break down. So again, all we do here, all I do is technical probabilities, right? The charts basically tell us what's the most likely outcome. And you know, whether or not we chop around here for a while, the ultimate outcome for probabilities is eventually to see more downside. I think it's important for us, you know, you might be the most bullish on Bitcoin ever. It doesn't mean it's going to go straight up nonstop, right? You have to understand price action. You have to understand that when too many people get bullish and that emotion takes over, that's usually a bearish sign, and vice versa on the bearish, when overly bearish side, it's usually bullish. So I think people need to kind of just understand that, you know, you can have your long-term thesis like I do that says Bitcoin eventually goes to half a mil, but it doesn't mean it's not going to go to 20,000 before then. And I think that's important to understand, is that you have to flush out a lot of the weak hands before it can really regroup, you know, bring back the .com era. And I've talked about that a lot, how in the .coms, I mean, yeah, Amazon survived and has thrived. It went to $6 a share in 2000 when the .com bubble collapsed. And then now it's at 3,300. So you can have washouts, and the best and the brightest will survive. When you're late to the party, like last October and November, when you were 65,000, 68,000, you can't chase that momentum. You need, as an investor, to step back and say, okay, Bitcoin has run up way too far, way too fast, and I'm not going to be that person that buys right up at the highs. Now, if you start to recognize the momentum shift, and that's the key, is can you catch it as it's just turning? And that's where the momentum is. That's where the big money is made. It's very, very hard to do. The only way I've ever found out how to do that is by following the charts and noticing that you're buying at support. All right, buying at support, generally you put the odds in your favor of that move. Yeah, so the first big test is going to be right here at around 45,000. Right now we're at 45.6. I'm tempted to take a little bit of my short off the table right around there just to protect myself in case we start moving back up. That would be the smart decision. If we do break 45, then you start heading back to a lower level here that I'm watching very, very closely. And this would be your next one connecting these lows. It's around 40,000. And then really the one that investors should be most concerned about would be this trend line here at the very lows. If that breaks, that's where you start getting into the 20,000-ish range, and you could see some major downside. Now, on the other side of the coin, let's talk to both sides, right? Because I think it's important to understand that investors, you don't want to just be focused on one side. And I think that's a major problem with crypto, is that everyone's just focused on the bull case. So in my case, I'm more on the bear side, but it doesn't mean I don't look at the bull case. And for me, the bull case is simply that if we were to start trading above this 200 moving average in this channel, and we were to hold there for a matter of days, one day doesn't matter. We've seen that plenty of times reverse. But if you establish yourself above this level here, then you can start saying, okay, maybe Bitcoin can start to really get some momentum and break to the upside, because the channel would be broken and the 200 moving average would be broken. Ultimately, it's a matter of, this is going to be the first support here. I'm thinking it will break, but nothing's guaranteed. So when I'm dealing with my own capital, I'm not going to be a cowboy and just say, hey, I'm going to roll the dice and I hope this goes to 20,000. I'm going to kind of protect some of those gains by maybe covering a little bit of that short at the 45,000 level. But let's not kid ourselves. Ultimately, Bitcoin remains inside of this range, and it's just trading up and down basically. And as long as it's in this range, it's range bound, and you would eventually expect it to come back here, maybe go back up. Eventually, one of these directions will break, and that will be the big move in that direction. So it could be up here, it could be down here. Whichever way it breaks, investors should watch that, because that likely is the next big move on Bitcoin in that direction. We are up there for like 3 or 4 days, and we're holding above it, starting to build consolidation above the 200 in this channel trend line. Then you could actually see, this is a situation where you'll have resistance along the way, but it opens the door to significant upside. Same thing on the downside, right? So if we break to the downside here, there is a couple stops along the way. One would be right at this low down here, just below 30,000. But I honestly would think that if we break this area, we're probably headed to that 20,000 level, which was the 2017 high. I'm keeping an eye on Ethereum here. Ethereum into resistance, same thing, 200 moving average. Looks to be in kind of a general trend here. We've seen some big moves on some of the altcoins. I have taken my profits on these at this point. Cardano had a beautiful move up here. A monster move from about 76 cents all the way up to about $1.25. It looks like it's stalling, but if it gets consolidation here, you might get one more move up to $1.40, maybe $1.50 right up here. And then if we look at some like Solana's been a beast over the last couple of days. This thing is going nuts. I'm not chasing this here. I had a position, I unloaded it around 115, 120. So again, at this point, I'm not going to chase it and get back in. But I will tell you, if it gets to the 200 moving average around $150, I would look to short it at that point. So the beautiful thing about it is to remember as an investor, you don't have to be a hardcore bull or a bear. You can trade the levels and actually make a lot more money, assuming you know what you're doing. And obviously that's the kicker, to make sure you know what you're doing. You don't have to be in every trade. So I've missed plenty of opportunities in Bitcoin, and I've captured many as well. There's been many stocks I've missed out on and many stocks that I have gotten. But I think it's important as an investor to remember the discipline. It's like you need this kind of free form that you abide by, this strict discipline of what you're going to do, when you're going to do it. Keep that trading journal so that you can monitor every trade you make, especially as a newer trader. And if you make a mistake, those are the most important to write down, and then identify what you did that didn't work out so you can try to improve upon it. You can't really as a technical, trader, because the key is we go off of past history as giving us levels, right? So I need to see what was the pivot low before. And this is one of the reasons why I don't trade a lot of IPOs that are just out on the open market, because I look at them and they have like 2 weeks of data. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to figure out if this thing starts dumping, where is my level to exit the trade? How do you cap your risk? How do you cap your reward? What is your opportunity? Where is your setup? And you just don't have that with newer things yet. I need volume, and I need some price history. You know what? The FOMO, there's always going to be FOMO in life. I found that out. And at some point you start to make peace with it, and you just say, you know what? There's going to be a million things I miss on, but as long as I catch a couple thousand, I'm going to have lots of millions in the bank, and I'm good with that,